Is going first, you or me?
You want to go first? I don't mind.
You can go first.
Really? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. So share screen. Okay. So I can't find this. Okay, so JUnit. Move this thing somehow, maybe. JUnit. So why do we need JUnit? When you build an application, there are many classes and methods, and how do you test that? Do you wait until the application is done? If you did, how would you know where the problem was? Oh, it will not let me do that. Okay, so JUnit is a way to test individual elements of your application, okay? The idea here is you test the parts, you'll see how you'll see if it's working or not working, and then the whole app will work properly. So test cases are built for each class and pretty much every method in that class, okay? So TDD is an acronym that they use. I've heard them. It's called test-driven development. That's what you're doing. It means that you build the test case before you build the code. So it's going to fail at first until you write the correct code, right? And so that actually helps you think about what your desired outcome is for your application. Okay, so JUnit is a unit testing framework, okay, built for Java. It's Java language. And JUnit is important in the development of test-driven development. JUnit is one of a family of the unit testing frameworks, which is collectively known as XUnit, that originated from SUnit. So there's been a few iterations. Okay, so I'm putting this slide in here because just to show you, you could manually test things, but JUnit is the automated way of testing things. And so in the automation testing, you're using a tool to execute the test cases, okay? It's faster, it's less human involvement in doing it, and it's more reliable, and it's programmable, and it's repeatable is one that they didn't have in there. You could just like run it again and again and again. So this will make more sense when I show you my code. But annotations are used inside of JUnit, and they have different ones. The most common one is the test one, which I used, but you can do before class, you can do after all of your tests are run, and so it will run after your tests are run. So all of those are in this. I have this hyperlink right here. This really explains it. She explains it extremely well. So if you wanted to experiment with before and after and make it really cool, you could totally do that. And she explains it really well how that works. So, okay, I wanted to talk to you about Makoto, or hopefully I'm saying that right, but mocking frameworks, okay, for just a second. We're not going to use that, but I want you to know what it is, okay? Why would you use a mocking framework? Okay, say in your application you're using a cloud service or someone else's service in your application like PayPal or something like that. Your class is dependent upon someone else's class object even, or this thing that they have built. Maybe it's a Google service, for instance. The point here is, what I'm trying to make is that Google tested their service, or whoever created PayPal, they tested their service, and you don't have to, okay? So when you're creating your application, you want to test the things you created and not what PayPal or Google or whatever created, right? So in these cases, we create a mock or fake service. Why? Because, once again, I've already explained that you only want to test your stuff and you're not really needing to test everyone else's stuff, okay? So that's what it is. I guess there's three of them. There's Makoto, JMockit, and EasyMock. I'm probably not saying it right. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. And then the last slide I have here, I've seen these people use this. It's org.hamcrest.CoreMatchers. And basically, it just makes this library of methods kind of make your life a little easier. You can say is something and or not something, and it will understand that as long as you include this library in your thing. And you can go into each one of the methods that you look at and see what it's really doing. I guess it's shorthand essentially for Java essentially, and it just made things easier. So I used it and I liked it. So let's get out of this. Let me show you my code. Okay, so this is really easy. We could even probably pretty much do this, like set this up, but today for each one of you. But I basically, you create, like if you come here in Eclipse and you say new project, and for me it would have to go under other because it's not showing, showing a unit. But you would want to I would want to click this to make a new JUnit test case. And you notice how I had to go to other, and then I had to know that I wanted a JUnit thing, okay? Cancel out of that. So that's all I did to create that. And what it does is it puts your stuff in two things. Basically your tests go inside this test library, and your program goes in here, okay, into the source main, okay, versus the source test. So these are just a bunch of little methods, okay? I didn't do like a really cool thing where I saw a few people do examples where they passed it from one method to the next, and by the end it was something different, okay? I didn't have that imagination. I first started out with like, what is the discount price of something, right? And so I created that method. So I just wound up creating a bunch of random methods. And so this one is I'll just, let's see. So what I'm writing here is this is a bunch of methods to demonstrate JUnit. You can either mess up the method, or you can change the expected results in JUnit to create errors if you want to see how the errors are working. When you have all green, it's good, and I'll show you that in a second, but it's fun to play around and see the different results. Okay, the goal is to have all green, having all of your tests pass. All green means all of your tests are passing. If you have red, then it means it's not. Okay, so the unit testing helps you design the expected results and find your bugs. Okay, so I did have to, okay, so one thing, I'll show you that in a minute. But let's just take this method right here. Discount price takes into two variables, P for price and D for discount. And it's really simple. It just multiplies them and then divides by 100. So this is the correct calculation, and the incorrect one is here. So I could very well switch that. So you can either mess up the method, or you can come in here and mess up the expected results to just kind of play around with it. But so this is your methods in here, and here are your tests in here. I use the annotation. In order to get the annotations to work, as I showed you before, I had to use a Maven library. I had to pull in a different Maven library to get it. I pulled in the 4.11 jar in order to get that. Like Eclipse already has JUnit, it has stuff in it, but the version was too low for the annotations. The annotations came later, and it's the easier way to do it. So I would just pull in that jar. So you need to have 9 different asserts for for our teacher Tuckett to like it. Okay, so like assert equals, there's false and true, assert no, and I've labeled all these, and I pretty soon will put this up on the thing so you can look at it. But there's 9 different ones, and he even shows it in his video. And then basically this test does, you just say at test, and then test discount price, that's my test, and assert equals is the thing that I'm using to see, I'm testing to see the expected results. So I expect 50 when I run this discount price method over in here. If I give you $100 and I say you're getting 50% off, I expect it to be 50, okay? So notice I instantiate that my JUnit testing class or whatever with just test, and then I just use test all the way down, okay, for each one of those. I guess if you had several of these, you could instantiate both and then switch back and forth, whatever, if you wanted. But basically, that's how it works. Let's see if I can think of another one. Oh, this one was kind of a little bit tricky. So the assert array equals and not get around, okay? So creating an array here filled with 1, 2, and 3, okay? Then basically just creating a result array with the same thing. And then I'm comparing if it equals, and it should come out green. But then I wanted to demonstrate not equals. Okay, so you notice how it says assert array equals. They don't have assert array not equals. It doesn't exist. You're supposed to use assert that, okay, and it will compare, okay? So I basically made a primary array of primary colors, blue, red, and yellow, and then a secondary array of pink, orange, and green. And then I compared those two, and it will come out correct because they're not equal, okay? See how I use the word not here? Okay, so I'm gonna run this, and when you run it in Eclipse, it'll pop up this JUnit somewhere, and you see how it's all green. Now, if I go in and mess something up, because it's kind of my fun thing here, let's just change this. Let's say it's $20 is gonna come back. So what will happen is, oh, here's the bad thing. You have to remember to save it. So I got this, I don't know, I almost call that maroon color. And it's going to tell you right here, your failure was at test discount price. Okay, so test discount price. So you have to look at that and you'll realize, oh, and it even says here too somewhere. Where is it? I don't know why. I thought it would have like a 1 there or something, but it has this mark right here. So anyways, that's basically how it works. And you can just kind of go back and forth. It's pretty easy. Once you do 1 or 2 of them, you're golden. Don't forget to save it though. That does get kind of frustrating. You think it works and it's not. All right, so I need to go back and turn this off somehow. Where am I?
You can just pause the recording or stop it so we can get to, unless you want to do questions first.
Sure. Does anyone have any questions?
I don't.
Maybe everyone did it already. I don't know.
I'm good.
Pretty easy, eh?
Looks pretty straightforward. I'm sure as I get into it, I might have questions at that point, but from your presentation, it seems pretty straightforward.
Good, I'm glad. Okay. Well, I'm going to, should I just say stop? It says pause.
Yeah. All right, so my presentation is on system level tests, and it's fairly simple. And we also, on our the discussion board, we kind of had a question on exactly what they were expecting. So today we'll talk about what a system level test is, what functional system testing is, types of system testing, what types of testing should be used, and samples of system level test template. So what is a system level test? System level tests consist of a series of tests that are designed to exercise the program as a whole and to check to make sure all elements are integrated and functioning properly. System testing verifies that an application performs tasks as designed. This step is a kind of black box testing which focuses on the functionality of an application. It's kind of like a black box testing, which assesses a system solely from the outside, without the operator or tester knowing what is happening within the system to generate response to test actions. The system is observed entirely by inputs and outputs, and that is probably key, is the input-output idea. So functional system testing. So system tests check to make sure the software functions properly from end to end. And the components of the system include a database, web-enabled application software, web servers, web-enabled application frameworks to deploy web browser software, TCP and IP networking routers, media servers to stream the audio and video, and messaging services for email. So there's there's over 50 types of system testing, and we're going to talk about just a few. So we have usability testing, load testing, regression testing, recovery testing, migration testing, functional testing, and hardware-software testing. So these are the main types that most large software development companies typically use. And then we'll kind of describe what is in each one. So in usability testing, mainly focuses on the user's ease to use the application, flexibility in handling controls, and the ability of the system to meet objectives. Load testing is necessary to know that a software solution will perform under real life loads, and that's really important, because if you can't handle the traffic, then it crashes. Regression testing involves testing done to make sure that none of the changes made over the course of development process have caused new bugs. It also makes sure that no old bugs appear from the addition of new software modules over time. Recovery testing is done to demonstrate a software solution is reliable, trustworthy, and can successfully recoup from possible crashes. Migration testing is done to ensure that software can be moved from older system infrastructures to current system infrastructures without any issues. Functional testing is also known as functional completeness testing. Functional testing involves trying to think of any possible missing functions. Tester might make a list of additional functionalities that a product can have to improve during functional testing. And then hardware-software testing is when the tester focuses his or her attention on the interactions between the hardware and the software during system testing. So what types of system testing should testers use? Due to the large number of system testing, specific types used by the tester depend on several variables, and these include who the tester works for. And this is a major factor in determining the types of system testing a tester will use. Methods used by large companies are different than that used by medium or small companies. And then time available, and that's probably the biggest problem, is ultimately all 50 testing types should be used, but time is often what limits to using only the types that are most relevant to the software project. And then resources available to the tester. Of course, some testers will not have the necessary resources to conduct a testing type. For example, if you are a tester working for a large software development firm, you are likely to have expensive automated testing software not available to others. We see this at work as well, and because if you have an application and you need to test it on multiple devices, anything from Apple TV to Fire TV to every kind of iOS or Android device. It kind of gets you have to be able to test on all of those platforms. And then software testers education. There's a certain learning curve for each type of testing software available, and to use some of the software involved, the tester has to learn how to use it. This, you can also see this as if sometimes you need to hook up to like Charles Log, and even then there's a learning curve there. So any type of tools you use is an educational process. And then once testing budget, money becomes a factor not for just small companies, but also individual software developers and large companies as well. So here's a sample system level test template, and I'll show you kind of where I got that. And that was actually found in the our book. So if you're doing a human-driven system level testing, when completely created, should be a script that can be executed by a human being. It generally takes the form of the tester should do and see. Testers are usually hired to test multiple pieces of software, usually on different platforms. The test should be written so that it can be executed by someone who doesn't know anything about how the software works or the purpose. It is often advisable to create your test with at least 2 columns. And the left column consists of a numbered set of extremely specific steps that a tester can follow. And the right column can be used to describe exactly what the tester can see. And either they will pass, fail, it wasn't available, and then any comments that the tester needs to feel like they need to add. And that is the end of this. And then I was going to show you examples. So I think I'll show you the image. So I just did a screenshot of what was in our book, and this is kind of what was there, and that's kind of where I got my example for what the teacher expects. And then so I created my own. And then so I actually, because his comment was to use an application that you're familiar with, and you have to think in terms, and it says, so I did just an app that I have on my phone, and the user interacts with an e-commerce app to view personal information, personalized features, and anyway, sorry. If incorrect username or password is entered, a pop-up will alert saying that it's incorrect in all account settings. So I kind of went, what would need to be pulling in from more than just pulling up just a different page. You know, you can go view different product detail pages or the cart page. You know, so where is the user inputting information and what are the expected results? And so, so you obviously you make sure you give a name, and usually we always put like dates with ours so that you can refer to know exactly when that was tested, and then the purpose of it, and then what is needed. What is this? We find this a lot is you go to test something and you don't have all your pieces, whether it's username and password, or any other products they need to be able to test that correctly. And then the name of tester, and this is doing testing is my name whenever I'm having to sign in for something, and there's always, you can have fun with that actually, and date and time of when it was done. So then so logging in is probably a great input output, and you can have one where you test it's incorrect, and then also navigate and do the correct one. And then I just kind of went through what would be the user requesting information and pulling. I'm not sure if these are entirely correct, but kind of examples is where we're with an internal search would be a user input and output. You know, what happens if the user does a null search, which is, and for example, this app, they didn't really say that, you know, there's no results for this. Because usually there's, you know, I do different words to pull up to get a null search, and he says you do need to have 10 to 15 different tests. And then I created, and I'll share this with you guys. You can use it or you don't need to, but this is just a blank template. And that way I did all the formatting for you. Any questions?
Thank you for making that document.
Yeah, thank you.
Merge cells, split cells. It wasn't that bad, but it saved you at least 5-10 minutes.
So this is what he wants to see for the submission?
Yeah,
Something
I don't know if, well, of course, Tammy can't say, but like if you go to the discussion board, both Tammy and I kind of asked him, and it says that you need to do 10 to 15 tests, and then system testing is input and output, and it's more than just, pulling up an HTML page. It'd be also like like an email sign up on a page, or and I kind of focused on what would a user pull in that would not normally be there, the same thing for every page, and that's what I did.
So, but do we actually need to write any code, or we just pick up an application on our phone and try those tests?
No, yeah, there's no writing code. It's just this template.
Okay.
And if you go to the doing more with Java, and that's where I found this image. And I highly recommend you read the section on the system as like testing in the book. And that's kind of where I started.
Do you have to tell them like which site that you did, and do you have to do it on your phone, or you can do it on a website, right?
He says an application that you're familiar with if you look at his wording. So
Well, that could be on
you
your
can
phone.
interpret that out however you want.
Yeah.
What's that?
It could be on your phone or your computer, I would think, right? An app's an app.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
could be
for
software
example,
you use at work. It could be, just.
well,
an
let me
application you're
show
familiar
you a neat tool that we personally use. So this is obviously Amazon is the site I used. Okay. And I'm sure you guys probably all know this, but this little toggle button will pretty much present it what if you were to pull up their website on a browser, and then you can also change, what
is
platform
this?
it's on.
What is this?
This is, so if you pull up a website and press F12,
That's the responsive mode or something like that?
yeah, so it's kind of like this little toggle to device toolbar.
So
So
Chrome?
this kind of, yeah, this is in Chrome.
Chrome's doing that, isn't it?
Yeah. And then, so, I mean, you could also use spoofers. I mean, if you wanted to as well. We do that just to test on different types of devices, especially if we're seeing issues with different specific ones. But it also shows you anyway. So sometimes their apps are actually different than their website, obviously, but anyway, that's how you would test on if you didn't want to pull an app up on your phone.
Okay,
but
so
the trick is following. For example, you'd go to a website and you look for where would you input stuff, and then an expected output. Are you signing up for stuff? That type of thing. Can't remember if theirs may not be a good example. Anyway, so think of a website or an application that focuses on the input output.
what do
And
you
then just write your script so it's specific.
what are you using the Chrome tools to really look at when you were doing it, though, just to see what was being activated, or you're trying to?
Okay, yeah. Let me pull up. Here's one where I started it. All right, so for example, this one, I saw examples where they're doing, you could do like Expedia or something where you are, so for example, check reservation dates. Okay, so you'd, enter in the specific date. And, you're testing this, you tell the tester to do a date range between this specific time frame. For example, if I were to do this into like November, and so you would tell that you'd be very specific, say you do this, you'd say enter a date between this time and this time. And then even every button click, you'd need to be specific so that they would know exactly what they're going to see next. And then this would be, the next step. And actually they won't see an error until, sometimes it's, what is one that has like, anyway. So you'd kind of like, these would be your inputs, outputs. Expedia would be a great one too. Here's another one. Which has a lot of inputs and outputs. So I guess you just got to think in terms of that. So you're not just pulling up, going from a category page to a product detail page, but an email sign up, call to actions is probably what you're looking for. Where would they be? Download something, enter an email, and my internet is really slow. Welcome to small town, Utah. Anyway. So like I would look for maybe an application like this where you are inputting a lot of information or small bits of information, asking for a demo, downloading a white paper, reserving or looking for a hotel, that type of thing. Any other questions?
So I guess I'm kind of confused what the thing on the right does. Is it like a pass-fail scenario? Or what's the thing on the right?
What's all these?
Yeah.
These are your calls. Okay, so this probably, this is actually what I do. So this is their analytics is what I test, and that's what I actually look for. And then we actually test, what happens when they click the button. So I wouldn't worry about this necessarily right now because that's your business intel, but that's what all that stuff is. I mean, you can even see these different, what kind of, pretty much what cookies do they have on their site. And so they have these guys actually have Facebook and Adobe Target and all that. So you can actually see what are they tracking. I mean, they have OmniBug and then another one's Observe Point, where really kind of see what tags they have on their site.
Gotcha.
So that's what you're just seeing is all the different stuff going on. But that might be for another time. Just make sure you untoggle that or you'll pull up your browser and it'll be all funky. So to get into that, it's just F12. All right. I do have resources that I used at the very end as well, and I'll upload those to Dropbox, or not Dropbox, sorry, Google Drive. Did I confuse you guys?
No, it was cool to see the extra Chrome thing. I know that's over, it's way over what we need to do or whatever, but it was cool because that's what you do. And so it was just as a job. So that's interesting to see, how you're able to look into someone's web page and just kind of see as you showed us the cookies and the things they're tracking, and which, I bet those are methods that are being activated when you push a certain button and such, right?
Yeah. And are they are they tracking link tracks, which would be any button clicking, and then the page load would be obviously a page load of different types. And then we actually do 2 different types of testing. We do spot testing, especially if there's no analytics change, we spot check. And then we do full regression, which is where we do check and make sure that, all links are tracked and the correct variables are being populated. And that, sometimes, changes that they have made breaks our code. Because pretty much on most of these, I think one, most of these sites, most analytics, there's just a header or footer code, and then they have a data layer or metadata. That's kind of what it is. But it's usually just a simple code snippet, and then everything is done. For example, this is the header code right here for Adobe. So it's just simple things like that, but something they can do can just break any calls that come in. And so, sorry if I'm adding more information than you need, but just simple things. That's why they do the different types of testing, to make sure everything's okay.
No, it's cool. Well, I should probably, should I stop the recording at this point, or?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay.